Most men don't know what they actually need until it's too late. We wake up one day feeling resentful, shut down, or completely disconnected from our partner, and we think, or we often think, that the problem is over there with her. But a lot of the time, it's because we have been abandoning ourselves, silently building resentment over years because we feel misunderstood or misrepresented. And that's because we're disconnected from what we actually feel, we're disconnected from what we need, and we struggle to actually articulate those things. So this episode is going to be about learning to feel, to know, and to honor your needs in relationship without collapsing, without controlling, and so you can stop walking around on eggshells. If you're new here, welcome to Awakened Evolution. My name is Jasper Brown. So I want to start this episode by understanding why men struggle so much to name and articulate what it is that they actually need. Most of us never had a father or a mentor or a role model who could actually sit us down and say something like, son, your needs matter. Your needs are important and you deserve to have, but that's your responsibility. And you need to learn how to express what it is that you need. And here, let me teach you how to do that in a strong, grounded, centered way. Nobody told you that a man can be strong and vulnerable at the same time. Nobody taught you that you can be clear and open-hearted, protective, and in touch with what you feel. That this is actually the core or the essence of masculine leadership. Nobody taught you how to lead yourself. And so you've been walking blind. You've been moving through life disconnected from your body, avoiding confrontation, or perhaps unintentionally or unwittingly creating a lot of confrontation or conflict in your life, and just kind of hoping things will work out, or you'll figure it out one day. But that's actually not leadership. That's emotional maturity in disguise. These are the actual symptoms or the signs of a lack of emotional development. And why is that? Why do so many men struggle? It's not just the role models. Some people did have good fathers who really put in the work, fathers who really did their best. But there's a broader cultural fabric that we're woven into that also conditions us. We go through school, we emerge into the workforce, and we get conditioned by forces that are bigger than just our family unit or just our immediate role models in life or our guardians. We're also exposed to a whole array of social conditioning, a lot of which teaches us as men that needing something is a sign of weakness. Expressing our feelings is a feminine thing. So many of us as boys were taught to man up instead of speaking up. We're taught to toughen up because that's what men do. That's what men need to do. That's what makes men strong. Suck it up. Because of that, most of us never really got the emotional literacy or the emotional intelligence that we actually needed to thrive in relationships. That's why so many of us experience dysfunction in relationships. Our culture and our education system never gave us a deep connection to the inner map or the compass that we needed to be able to orient ourselves effectively in relationships or in conflict. A lot of us feel, we have the feelings, but we don't know how to express it. We don't know how to articulate it. We don't even know how to make sense of it. We just feel discomfort. We feel awkward. We feel anxious, or we feel ashamed. But maybe we don't even have the words to put the label on it. Or we don't have the capacity to trace those feelings towards the unmet needs that lie underneath them. Many of us, and I know I myself have really struggled with this in my life, which is we fear conflict, we fear rejection. If I ask for too much in my relationship, or if I express my feelings, she's going to think I'm needy and she's going to leave me. She's going to think that I'm a beta male. She's going to think that I'm weak. She's going to use that vulnerability against me. She's going to leave me for a guy who is stronger and more alpha or more confident than me. Or perhaps you're afraid that your honesty is going to lead to drama, or your vulnerable expression or your articulation of what you need is going to create just unnecessary chaos in the relationship. It's much better if I just keep it quiet. I don't need to deal with it. I'll just suck it up. So we just shut up. We minimize. We tolerate. Because we receive the message that that's what we should do. We should just toughen up. We should just suck it up. But the problem with that is that eventually the resentment builds, the frustration builds, the pressure builds. And eventually we just end up withdrawing. We reach for numbing. We numb out with porn, drugs, video games, alcohol, and suppress it even more until eventually it becomes like a pressure cooker inside of us, and then we explode. One day we either explode, we have a meltdown, we have a burnout, or we act out. We cheat. We go and find ways to get our needs met in unconscious, leaky, or downright dysfunctional ways that can end up sabotaging our relationships. And that's exactly what happened to me. Because I struggled to articulate my needs, because I struggled to articulate and navigate what I was feeling, and I couldn't share that, I couldn't talk about it, I had no way of processing it. But that didn't mean that the needs disappeared. It didn't mean that my feelings, that I stopped feeling the things that I was feeling. It just meant that I bottled all of that stuff up for a long time. I suppressed it. And eventually I made choices that were not very healthy. I reached for porn to satisfy my need for intimacy because I wasn't getting it in my relationship, because I didn't know how to ask for it. I reached for weed or did drugs because my nervous system was overwhelmed and I didn't know how to articulate that I was struggling, that I was suffering. And I didn't tell my partner in my relationship that that's what I was doing, because I was afraid that she would judge me. I was afraid that it would create a conflict. I was afraid that she wouldn't respect me anymore, or that she would shame me for doing those things. And so I lied. I hid the truth. And of course, whenever you lie and whenever you hide the truth and when you're not honest, not only did my needs continue to not get met, but then I was also out of integrity. And then that created even more pressure because I knew that I was living out of alignment with the truth. And of course, that started to eat me up inside. I started to feel bad about it. I felt wrong. I knew that I wanted to live in alignment with the truth. I knew that I wanted to feel free in my relationship, and I knew that I wanted to get my needs met, but I was afraid. I was afraid of the repercussions. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of getting abandoned or rejected or broken up with or shamed. And so I end up sabotaging my relationship because nobody taught me how to express my truth. Nobody taught me how to articulate what I was feeling, what I was needing. And obviously that damaged the relationship that I was in, that I am in, and it damages the relationship with myself because I start to feel twisted and contorted and like I have to hide things. It starts very subtle, but those things build up over time. And before you know it, it starts undermining how you feel. It starts undermining the relationship itself. And this is an extremely common issue that I see in men. I coach a lot of men and I work with a lot of guys who get themselves into difficult positions in their relationship, or perhaps they're even in relationships they don't want to be in. Or the relationship has degraded to such a point where their needs are so unmet that, they're cheating on their partner, or they want to break up or divorce, but they're terrified because they have so much to lose. They've got a house, they've got a mortgage, they've got kids. They've got an entire foundation that they've built their life on that has been undermined by the fact that they couldn't express or ask for or get their needs met in those relationships. So this quickly becomes, this is the source of so much dysfunction. And the whole point of being in relationship is to get your needs met, because we are social creatures, we are relational creatures. We come into this world as a part of a family unit, as a part of a social fabric of society. And so many of our needs are actually met by the collective or met by other individuals. Our need for sex and connection and belonging and intimacy and safety. These are all such fundamental, foundational human experiences and requirements to living a harmonious, beautiful, fulfilling life. But if we can't ask for those things, if we don't have the inner compass sharpened and calibrated to be able to articulate what we need and express ourselves and figure out and to feel into when things are out of alignment and how do we actually fix those misalignments, of course we struggle. Of course we end up into these weird situations or dysfunctional relationships because nobody ever gave us the skill set to do it any other way. And chances are your parents were just as dysfunctional, probably even more dysfunctional when it comes to this. So of course you've been struggling. And I still remember extremely clearly when I had the revelation, the moment in my life when I was like, my needs matter. My needs are important. I deserve to get my needs met. I just don't know how to ask. I don't know how to express it. I'm afraid. What happens if I do express it and someone doesn't meet my needs? Then I'm going to feel guilty. Then I'm going to feel ashamed. Those are emotions that I don't like to feel. Better off just not asking for anything so I don't have to feel the rejection. But what if I develop the capacity to metabolize rejection? What if I develop the skills to be able to face my fears and articulate my fears? Maybe that's a more empowering way to live. And I remember the moment when I had the key insight that every emotion that I experience is a signal. It's feedback from my highly intelligent biological system, computer system, genius design. It's been working for billions of years. Everything that's happening inside of me is happening for a reason. It's feedback. It's communicating to me all the time if I have the ears to listen. And so every emotion that I experience is actually an emotional need. It's actually something going on inside of me that's necessary. It's part of my system functioning the way it was designed to. And if we stop listening to the system, if we don't tune into and we're not in a conscious relationship with the system itself, the system starts to malfunction. We start to break down. We start to get twisted up. We get our wires crossed and things stop working the way that they were designed to. And so I had this understanding that every emotion has a correlated need associated with it. And this was I wish someone taught me that 20 years ago. So for example, anger represents the need for respect or boundaries. Sadness connects to the need for recognition or connection. Anxiety relates to the need for safety or clarity. And if you're one of those guys out there who was just like me in the beginning, who couldn't feel much of anything at all, and when I tuned in to try to connect to what was going on, I just felt numb. Couldn't have told you what I was feeling, apart from saying I was fine or good. The numbness might be communicating a need for rest or realignment or a deeper truth. Maybe that numbness is a way that you've learned to protect yourself from feelings that you were never taught how to navigate. So this is an important relationship to understand, the connection between what you're feeling and what you need. And then we can actually understand that all feelings are needs, emotional needs. Your emotions are pointing you towards requirements that your system has to live a fulfilled, integrated life. And so the frame that I want you to understand and to really start to implement here is that you're responsible for this. You're responsible for recognizing and honoring and expressing your emotional needs. Nobody else can do that for you. Your partner, your friends, your family, they're not mind readers. And chances are that nobody taught them how to do this either. So if we exist in that kind of environment, nobody's getting their needs met, nobody's getting fully attuned to. You're not getting what you need. That's your responsibility to change it. And we can do that by starting to honor and recognize and express what's happening inside. So your needs are not a weakness. Your emotional needs are actually part of the structure, part of your structure. And every secure relationship, if you want to develop a secure relationship with people, we need scaffolding, we need structure. Just like if you want to build a house, you need scaffolding to wrap around the frame of the building in order to get the building built. And without that, we're building on shaky foundations. So when you don't own your needs, when you aren't able to articulate your emotional needs, you end up collapsing. The structure will collapse, and it collapses into resentment, or you become avoidant or passive aggressive. You shut down, you run away, or you start getting, or you start expressing that frustration towards your partner in an unconscious way. you might start to unconsciously try to manipulate your partner and get them to meet your needs without expressly asking for things. So you kind of subtly pressure her to have sex with you, or you subtly pressure her to do the things that you want to do, or you expect her to do certain things, and then when she doesn't, you get upset or bitter or shut down or resentful. But when you own your needs, when you're actually able to articulate them, you create clarity. Clarity in the relationship. You create the structure of leadership because you're able to articulate what's happening, where are we going, what's needed here, how can we create a plan to meet the needs. And that creates intimacy because you're able to vulnerably kind of express the truth that exists inside of you. And that helps your partner to understand you. So we come into intimacy because we understand each other, because we've been able to be open and truthful and vulnerable with each other. So really owning your emotional needs and expressing them is emotional leadership. You're guiding the relationship in the direction that you need it to go so it becomes fulfilling and it actually, it's functional. And I've just completed another episode on emotional leadership, and this is a part of that. This is an extension of that. And understanding the nuances of your needs is really, really crucial in this. If you haven't listened to the first episode that I did on emotional leadership, go back and listen to that after this, and connecting these two will be really, really powerful. These are synergizing concepts. So now I want to help you to name and communicate your needs. This is going to be a little bit of a system for you to start doing this, to break it down and make it, make it all make sense. So you can actually take what I'm sharing here and take it out into your relationship or out into the world and start test driving this, start honing and practicing, because it just requires reps. Nobody gave you the skills. Nobody taught you how to do this. Or maybe you've been doing it, just figuring it out by yourself. But we need to sharpen and refine this if we actually want to get our relationships deeply healthy and functional. This is like kind of the fundamental building blocks of any kind of system, and we can look at relationships like a system. Essentially, we're tuning into your individual system, your biological system, and figuring out what is the map, what's the hidden map here? What's the compass? What are the parts of us that we need to identify and come into relationship with so that we can start to steer this vehicle in a way that fully optimizes and attunes ourselves to the requirements that we have in life. So we're just upgrading our GPS, essentially. So in order to do that, the first step is to really track the sensations in your body to come into embodiment, as it's known. We're sharpening our embodiment. We can ask ourselves, where do I feel tense? Where do I feel numb? Where do I feel constricted or irritated? Where is there pressure? Essentially, what is the feedback that my nervous system is giving me? What can I notice in my body? So for me, when I notice, for example, when my need for safety isn't getting met, I notice my nervous system wants to pull away. I notice a constriction. I notice myself closing. So if someone is yelling or screaming at me, I notice my nervous system wants to pull away, it wants to shut down, it wants to turtle up and close itself in order to protect me. We can ask, what's the emotional tone underneath that? Ooh, I feel threatened. I feel unsafe. I feel like withdrawing. I feel the need to protect myself. So then we can ask and start to inquire into the emotional need. So we feel the sensations, we get the feedback from our nervous system. What's the emotional need but underneath that? If we feel angry, we likely need to feel respected, autonomous, and have our boundaries honored. If we feel sad, maybe there's a need for getting in connection with our grief. Maybe we need more connection, or we're feeling uncared for, or we need self-care. If we feel fear, there's a need for safety, assurance, containment. If we feel ashamed of something, there's a need for acceptance, authenticity, or maybe forgiveness. If we feel joyful, there's a need for celebration and expansion and freedom. Whatever that experience is for you, it's really important that you get in touch with it and understand what's needing to be processed or needing to be moved or needing to be expressed. Once we have that clarity, then we can express it. And it's really good to express. And with that, it's also really important how we express. Because you might feel angry about something, your partner's done something that left you feeling angry or upset. But how you express that upset matters a lot. You can't just start pointing the finger and being like, you fucking did this, how dare you, da 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 da. That's not a very skillful expression of your anger. And that's going to leave the other person feeling that their boundaries and their needs have been violated. So it goes both ways. And if we want things to move forward in harmony and in relationality, a great rule of thumb is to use I language. We speak from our perspective, what our experience is. We might like to name the impact. We might have a specific request, and we can use this format, which is basically when ... fill in the blank happened, I felt this. So when you weren't where you were said you were going to be on time, I felt disrespected and angry. And what I'm needing is, fill in the blank, what I'm needing is more communication from you. I would have really appreciated that you let me know you were going to be late. And then we can have a request. Would you be willing to fill in the blank? Would you be willing to send me a text next time you're late so I know not to expect you when you said you were going to be there? I language. It's always really important. As soon as we start to go, you did this, you did that, you never, you always do this, this is when usually we're starting to push the other person's boundaries and to make them feel unsafe and to make them feel attacked, and then their needs aren't getting met. So it's so much more powerful to speak from your perspective, what you notice, what you feel, what you need. And it's much more likely to slide past their defense mechanisms in a way that actually allows them to hear you, instead of triggering their boundaries and their defense mechanisms, which then are going to create an inability to hear you or a need to defend themselves. So I want to make this even more relatable now. I'm going to walk through a couple of vivid real life examples to help you understand this. And two of the things that I see a lot of guys really struggling with, and very commonly this is coming up, is really around conflict and sex. So we're going to look at these examples and we're going to understand what's actually going on emotionally. We're going to understand what the unmet need is underneath that emotional experience, and how to express yourself in these moments with leadership and emotional maturity. And in my experience, when it comes to relationship conflict and sex, a lot of guys really struggle how to navigate these topics, and it can quickly cause conflict and frustration and resentment building. And in my coaching practice, in my experience, this is a very, very common cause for relationships to break down and divorces, or things to become quite dysfunctional and toxic. People can easily end up in a sexless relationship, or a relationship where conflict is happening a lot. And it's sucking the life. It's sucking the life out of both people. And I have also been in these situations many times as well. It took me a while to figure out how to learn to navigate these topics with skill. So let's look at scenario number 1, which is that your partner is explosive and he or she is blaming you. So let's set this up with understanding what's happening first. So let's say you walk in late from work. You've had a long, difficult day at work, putting in the hours, slogging away, and your partner unloads on you when you get home. She's pissed, she's emotionally reactive, she's shaming you and blaming you, and she's saying things like, you never listen to me, blah, 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 blah. You always prioritize everything else over me. Why am I even here? From your experience, the initial feeling is you feel threatened. Your nervous system contracts. You go into a fight-flight response. You feel triggered. She just brought an emotional, explosive energy in your direction, so you feel like you've been ambushed. Your body goes into a threat response. You anticipate that you have to choose your words very carefully. So you feel like you're kind of walking on eggshells. You shut down. You might shut down. Your initial impulse is probably to get defensive. What are you talking about? Can't you see how hard I'm working? I've just come back from work. I've been working all day for this family, for you, and how dare you? How can you not see how much effort I'm putting in for this relationship? And I come back after a hard day's work and all you got is complaints. So then you turn the table. The best defense is an offense, so to speak. And of course, she feels unheard. She escalates, because what she's probably feeling on the other side is she's feeling disconnected. She's feeling unsafe. She's feeling unheard. She's feeling like her needs aren't getting met in this relationship either. But instead of vulnerably sharing that, because a lot of women also struggle with vulnerability, especially when they don't feel safe. Being vulnerable, it's not usually the way a woman leads, especially when she's triggered or upset. So instead of that vulnerability, she lashes out in protest. And you are left absorbing the expression of her pain. But because of the way that she's chosen to express it, unprocessed, unfiltered, raw emotional expression, you of course find it extremely difficult to feel her heart underneath it. And so without that, when your nervous system is threatened, of course you go into overwhelm and you feel shut down as well. And so it's really hard for you to open with empathy in the face of aggression. And what you feel is disrespected. Your boundaries are being disrespected. Your effort, the love that you've poured into your relationship is completely ignored. You feel deeply unseen. You feel triggered. Maybe you feel completely powerless because this is an ongoing argument that's been happening for years. And you keep having the same fight again and again and again and again, and it's just not getting better. So you feel completely overwhelmed. And that's brutal. That's really, really heavy. So let's look underneath that. Let's go another level deeper. What do you actually need in those moments? Super important for a man to feel respected in his relationship, respected by his woman, respected by his chosen partner. You need to feel that you are not attacked, blamed, shamed, ridiculed, or demonized in order to feel respected. Because an attack, that's almost like the complete opposite of respect. If someone's attacking you, they have very little regard for your safety or for your tender heart. And so, in the face of threat and attack and disrespect, you have a need for emotional safety and boundaries. Because you don't feel safe. You have a need to protect yourself. You have a need to defend yourself. You have a need to be met with respect. And what you're really longing for is to connect with your partner and to get to the root of the problems in the relationship without hostility, without being blamed, shamed, judged, or ridiculed. You want to feel connected. You want to feel intimate. You want to feel safe. Of course. Who doesn't? So how can we, instead of going with plan A, which is to just react with fight back or get defensive or shut down, how might we respond with emotional leadership? You might say something like, hey, babe, I can feel how upset you are. I can see that you're really angry and that you're super triggered. And I want you to know that I understand what's underneath that. I can see how much pain you're in and I know why you're in pain. Or you might like to invite her to go deeper. Tell me more about what you're experiencing. I can see that you're angry. And I have some ideas about why you're angry. I can see that I didn't do this or didn't do that, but help me understand. Tell me more. Tell me what you're feeling. And if she continues to throw more blame and shame and judgment in your direction, you might have to stop and say, babe, hang on a second. Let me say something here. I need you to understand that the way that you're speaking to me right now, it's attacking. It's landing like a threat for me. I'm feeling attacked. And because of that, I feel disconnected. It's hard for me to really be here for you. It's hard for me to stay in this conversation if you keep attacking me or if you keep expressing your pain in this way. I really want to have a conversation that brings us closer together and not one that tears us apart. And right now, this is feeling like we're not getting closer. And so what I'm needing is for us to talk to each other with respect and with care and with empathy. Can we slow this all down? I'm here for that kind of conversation, but I need you to meet me in the middle. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. But it needs to be with respect and with care and with empathy. And when you're ready for that, I'm right here. And if you can't agree to that, I'm going to take some space and I'll come back in 30 minutes so we can have a proper conversation about this. Can you feel that? Feel that in your own nervous system. Imagine you and I were in a conflict and I came to you and said those words. Feels grounded, doesn't it? Feels like I'm bringing direction. Feels like I'm coming with structure. So you're not avoiding her emotions. You're validating them. You're holding the container for them. And you're showing her and yourself that anger doesn't lead to connection. Anger, when it's expressed as aggression, is damaging. It's unsafe. It's not moving us forward, and it's difficult to be around. I'm here for your pain, babe. I'm here for your anger. But if you keep directing it at me, I'm getting overwhelmed and I'm going to have to tap out here. What I'm really looking for is to come together and make sense of this so we can get on the same page and find a solution. Would you be up for that? How does that sound? Tell me what you need right now. So that's how I would be handling that situation. And that's something that I've learned to do. I've taught myself to do that in my relationship. And I used to run away. I used to shut down. I used to just get completely overwhelmed, or I would get defensive and start fighting back. And I saw that was a road to nowhere. That didn't work. In fact, it just led to breakups and more dysfunction. So I learned over time how to do it better, how to communicate and bring structure and frame. And that's something that I teach men how to do. That's why I'm teaching it here. I teach this in coaching. I help men create structure and frame around situations where they're not getting their needs met and they desperately want to get them met. So let's look at scenario number 2, which is the intimacy in your relationship has dried up. Maybe you're in a sexless relationship, or the intimacy between you and your partner is just very infrequent. You haven't had sex in weeks or months. She never seems to be in the mood. When you try to initiate, she turns you down, and so you feel rejected again and again. She says things like, I'm just not feeling it lately. I don't want you to pressure me. I'm feeling pressured. Stop putting pressure on me. And so you feel unwanted, you feel rejected, you feel needy. And that's not a nice thing to feel. So you end up withdrawing even more. You shut down, maybe you start watching porn, maybe you start having leaky sort of emotional interactions with other women at work or online. And it starts to create distance in the relationship. So what's going on underneath? There's a deeper emotional disconnection happening. Maybe your partner is not feeling emotionally connected to you. She's not feeling seen. She's not feeling safe. Or there's a backlog of resentment towards you that she hasn't voiced because of things that have happened in the past, or just the state of the relationship in general. You haven't been expressing your needs in the best way. Maybe you've tried to express your need, but every time you do it, she ends up feeling pressured and you guys get stuck at that and don't know how to get past that. And so she doesn't feel your desire is something that she wants to follow. She's not feeling like there's leadership in this situation. She's feeling it's left up to her to fix your problem. But with an expectation and kind of going against her own body in the process. So she feels like torn between needing to fulfill your sexual needs and be a good lover, and caught between that and her own overriding her own emotional needs for connection and intimacy before any kind of physical intimacy. But maybe she doesn't know how to ask that. And so it comes out as rejection, denial. You're just pressuring me, stop pressuring me. I'll initiate it when I feel like it, but it never comes around. And so we reach a point of stalemate. The intimacy's just dried up and we don't know how to bridge the gap that's been created. There's a gulf between us. And what do you feel underneath all of this? You feel unwanted. You feel frustrated, disconnected, sexually frustrated, of course. Feel like you're failing. Feel ashamed. The woman that you love or the partner that you love doesn't want to have sex with you. It's kind of emasculating. You feel the love that exists inside of your heart doesn't have a place to land. Your love is unwanted. Your desire for connection and intimacy and to make sweet, passionate love with this beautiful being that you've chosen as your partner isn't received. Brutal. Brutal, brutal, brutal. Horrible feeling. I know exactly what that feels like. And so what you actually need underneath that, if we can get in touch with the emotion, the needs connected to those emotional experiences, what do you need? You, as a man, need to feel desired. I want to feel desired by my partner. I want to feel wanted. I want to feel connected. I want to feel like I get chased. I want to feel like my partner initiates. Instead of me always being the one to be initiating and getting rejected, I want to feel like she has a desire for me. I have a need to express my desire. I have a need to express the longing that I have to connect with her in a sexual way. I have a need for us to be able to talk about our problems with intimacy and to get to the bottom of it and to be able to bridge that gap. I have a need for deep sexual chemistry with my partner. I want to feel turned on. I want to feel like we're ripping each other's clothes off. It's the kind of relationship I want to be in, where sex is frequent and abundant and flows and it's beautiful and connected and deep and juicy. Or kinky or whatever you want, you know? I want to feel free in my relationship. I want to feel sexually liberated, deeply sexually satisfied in my relationship. Who doesn't want that? But that's a million miles away at the moment. So how might we respond in this situation? How do we actually respond in a way that's skillful? You might say something like, hey babe, my love, I've been feeling the distance between us, especially physically. And it's starting to have a really negative impact on me. I really miss the intimacy that we used to have. I'm longing for more of that. In the beginning, it was so beautiful and so connected and we were so passionate and that was amazing. That was so fulfilling for me. I don't want to force anything on you. I have these needs, I have sexual needs. I don't want to force them on you, or I don't want to make you wrong for not being in the mood. And I can see that sometimes the way that I express my need, my desire, my longing for you leaves you feeling pressured. And at the same time, I also need to feel wanted in this relationship. I need to feel like you want me as much as I want you. And perhaps I haven't been meeting some of your emotional needs that enable you to feel like you want me. So can we sit down and can we talk about what's going on underneath the surface? Would you be up for that? When can we do that? Let's pick a day. So the frame here is that you're not whinging, whining, or begging. You're not blaming, shaming, or accusing her. You're just leading with grounded honesty, expressing your experience, the need underneath, and you're also open and empathizing towards hers. And you're inviting her into an emotional space that creates the context for physical intimacy to occur. So actually, by having this conversation, by having the balls to have this conversation, by creating the space for this conversation, you're actually taking a big step towards physical intimacy, because you're going to enable a repair process to happen where both sides get to have their story aired, and you're going to help understand each other, and you're going to leave her feeling seen, and you're going to feel seen. And from that place, we have intimacy. We have emotional intimacy. And before we have sexual intimacy, we need to have emotional intimacy. And a great way to create emotional intimacy is to talk about what you need. Talk about what you're missing. Talk about what you're longing for. And deeply listen to each other. That's actually how you create some of the deepest, juiciest, most passionate intimacy of your life, is start with a deeply vulnerable emotional conversation. And once you get through that, watch what happens to your intimacy. I can't tell you how many times I've had a deep, vulnerable conversation that's led to sweet, passionate lovemaking all night long. So I hope you can feel that. Feel the groundedness. I'm transmitting something here. I'm offering you my grounded emotional state. I'm offering you a view of emotional, mature leadership here. That's what it feels like. That's what it sounds like. Even the tone of my voice, the way that I pace myself, the way that I leave pauses, the way that I open energetically to encompass, to wrap around you or your partner, or who, there's a feeling there. There's a grounded, regulated feeling there, because my nervous system, I've done a lot of work to ground myself and stabilize myself and develop the skills to be able to hold a certain structure, a certain frame. And I'm trying to transmit that to you, and I'm trying to help you feel it. This is what you can start to develop in yourself, is the capacity to do this, to meet people in this way, and to hold yourself in this way. And it's deeply polarizing. The feminine in your partner, the feminine in other people, regardless of gender, will be activated and polarized when you bring this kind of structure, this kind of frame, this kind of regulated, grounded state. And it's super fucking powerful. It's super masculine to be able to come with this. So I hope you feel that. I hope you can sense that. I hope you can intuit the value of investing time and energy into developing this as a capacity for yourself as a man. Because it's crucial. If you want incredible relationships, if you want to have a healthy dynamic, if you want to have passionate, deep sexual intimacy, if you want to be able to navigate difficult emotional conflicts that arise, this is crucial. This is what women are generally begging for. They're craving masculine containment, embodied, conscious masculine energy. This is what women are craving. This is what the feminine is so angry and so hurt at, because there hasn't been enough of this. It's just been patriarchal dominance for thousands of years, neglecting women's emotional needs and safety. That's why feminism happened. It was a revolt against the injustice and the inequality and the dysfunction of it. Calling relationships and calling men into a higher standard, into a new paradigm. So let's talk about what happens when your needs still don't get met, even though you've been asking for them. say you've been following my advice, you've been doing this work, you've been really putting in the effort. Sometimes it also just doesn't work. We don't get everything we want. Sometimes, even when we do express ourselves clearly and we're honest and vulnerable and open and we bring structure, a woman or your partner can't meet you, or she doesn't want to, or she's too wounded to respond in the way that you need. This is where boundaries matter, and there are lines in the sand. Sometimes we have to draw a line, and sometimes it's the boundary that forces things to change. Sometimes it's the boundary that helps us to understand that we have to walk away. We can't win every fight. We can't win every battle. Some battles, winning is walking away, especially if you're in a dysfunctional dynamic. The relationships become really toxic. We're not going to beg. We're not here to convince someone to do something that they don't want to do, or they're not ready to do, or they're simply not capable of doing. And so sometimes we have to honor the truth of the moment, which is that things aren't working. This is where we draw the line. And so sometimes we need to consider our options. We need to either recalibrate our expectations. Maybe we need to change the dynamic of the relationship. Maybe we're better off being friends. Maybe we need to live in separate houses. Maybe we need to get a divorce. Maybe we need to go to therapy. Maybe I need to invest in coaching. Maybe I need to reach out to Jasper and work with him, or get someone like him to help me build this skill set that I need. And generally, if a relationship can't meet your basic needs for safety, connection, and growth, we either need to have a plan for moving forward in a better way, so soon it will meet those needs. Got to feel safe, got to feel connected, and you've got to feel like we're growing together. And if we don't have a plan for that, if I'm not seeing signs for that, maybe I need to have a boundary. Maybe I need to walk away. And the frame here is that we need to understand that not every woman or not every partner can meet you in the depth that you need to be met. And if you abandon your needs in order to maintain a relationship, you're actually abandoning yourself. And that's a really, really important concept to understand. I spent years and years and years of my life abandoning myself in toxic relationships and also contributing to those toxic relationships. I fully own my part in that. And that's on me. I was abandoning myself because I let myself participate in dysfunctional behavior and build up resentment and create a lot of conflict because I was so disconnected from my needs and what I was feeling and what I should have been asking for. So sometimes our needs and our emotional system is telling us that we need to assert a boundary. We need to draw a line in the sand. We need to say, this is what I'm willing to accept. This is what I'm not willing to accept. If this relationship isn't built on safety and connection and forward momentum, it's not the kind of relationship that I want. It's not the kind of relationship that I need. And in general, people suck at having that as a boundary. We usually stay in dysfunctional relationships for way longer than we should because we don't know how to ask for what we need, because we don't listen to our body and the information and the feedback that it's giving us. And we abandon ourselves in the process, and then we blame our partner or blame the situation, or, start being a victim in this situation because, look at where we've got. So it's really important for you to understand what those lines are, what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept, what you need, what you do not need, what you want to be feeling, what the truth of your feelings are. All of this stuff is foundational map and compass. So in this episode, I really put forward an understanding of why men struggle with their needs, the really important relationship between feelings and needs. I've given you a system for communicating, and we've worked through some common examples. I hope you found that really insightful and useful and applicable to your relationships. It's been one of the biggest game changers in my relationships and the way that I've learned to approach my relationships. It's created so much clarity for me. It's allowed me to say no to and cut out of my life relationships that didn't align. And so I stopped wasting time and energy trying to educate people or trying to force people to be the way that I needed them to be. And I just became much more sovereign, much more trusting and valuing my energy and my time. And that's just led to quantum acceleration in my relationships. The ones that I've chosen to invest in have become incredible, and the ones that aren't aligned, I push away and I give them the attention and the energy that I think that they need or that they deserve based on what's possible with a specific person. And that's been incredible for me. I've cleaned my house. I've created structure and order in my life by doing this. So if you're a man and you want to build the capacities of emotional leadership in your relationships or in your life, come and join my men's community, the Conscious Masculine. We do weekly men's group calls for nervous system mastery, relational growth, understanding and building the skills around conflict resolution and sexual mastery, and improving the polarity in our relationships. You might like to apply for one-on-one coaching with me where we can go super deep into this work, and I can give you systems. I can help you to stay accountable to this process and help you implement things in a very strategic way in your relationship. And that's a really powerful investment in yourself. Because at the end of the day, the quality of your relationships will never rise above your capacity to express what you're feeling, what you're needing, and what you value. And so we really need to sharpen those capacities if we want to have incredible relationships in life. So if you want to learn more about the work that I do and how you can jump in on that, just check out the links below this episode. And lastly, I'll leave you with a little bit of meta on needs, so we can understand the bigger picture here. So it's really crucial that we develop this skill set to get our needs met. I like to visualize my needs as a pyramid. You can Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a really famous and established model for breaking your needs down into different categories. And in Maslow's hierarchy, the foundational needs like safety and resources create the base of the pyramid. And that base is a platform for the higher needs of belonging and connection, which in turn sets up our capacity to fulfill the needs like meaning and contribution and eventually self-actualization, becoming all that we can be. So the right relationships around us act as a bolster for your sense of self. The right relationships and high quality relationships will assist your survival in life. It's going to make it easier for you to survive. And it's going to help you to create a certain structure around you that really helps you to thrive. Because if you have really high quality relationships of people who really support you and who help to meet your needs, that's going to make your life so much easier just from a purely survival perspective, and also meeting all of these different tiers of needs. So from my perspective, locking that down, locking down relationships, just getting really good at relationships and creating a very ordered, structured skill set for that. it's a fundamental skill set that we need. As I said in the beginning, we are relational creatures, we're social creatures, and if we can just master that domain, it's really going to help to set up the game of life in a way that we really can start to win that game. And that's crucial because we want and we need a really robust foundation or platform in order to actually start doing spiritual work, real spiritual work. Without that strong, robust platform and structure around our relationships and around our needs and emotions, real deep consciousness work becomes difficult, becomes harder to integrate because you don't have the stability. Your relationships will be, if your relationships are dysfunctional, then your precious time and energy is going to get sucked into drama, into conflict, into petty human politics. And your evolution will actually get co-opted. You could spend your whole life looping in relational drama, makeups and breakups and fighting and bickering and political, bullshit, essentially. And and most people do spend their whole lives dancing in that domain. So from my perspective, from a self-actualization lens, it's really important that we get our house in order. And we need our house to be in order so that at a certain stage, or as we progress, we can double down on the deep work of sense-making and truth-seeking. And putting in or investing the time into raising your level of consciousness, because that's the ultimate path to leading the good life. The more conscious you become, the better your life becomes. And so we need the structure, we need the containment, we need the foundation to support that process. And that's how we start to win. So I see this as a puzzle piece, getting your relational needs met, fixing your relationships, harmonizing your relationships. This is just crucial, foundational time and energy that you need to invest to lock it down, stitch it up, so that we create the ideal foundation, so that we just win on that level, so that we can actually then receive the benefits of that, because a really harmonious relational field supports you to follow your life's purpose. It supports you to thrive in business and to be more, abundant in the way that you generate wealth or generate value for other people. It's going to harmonize your environment. It's going to harmonize your health. Remember, all of the life areas are connected. And that's going to enable us to approach spirituality or spiritual development or consciousness work without bypassing the human experience. Because that's a trap as well. And I've been teasing the episode on spiritual bypassing, which is, it's basically complete. I'll have that coming soon. I'm sorry for the delay, but it's on the way. And I've been wanting to sequence things effectively. And I know that relationships and emotional needs and this kind of maturity, it's essential before we even go into really deep spiritual topics. So that stuff's coming, and I appreciate your patience for allowing me to construct this ship as it's already flying. So I really thank you for your feedback, really appreciate your support. Look forward to hearing from you if you decide to join the men's group or reach out for one-on-one support. That's it for this episode. Go out there, start harmonizing your relationships and start getting your needs met.